Good day, welcome to my channel. I am Maurits Lindekie from Carbon Neutral Approach. I'm making this video just to show some of the hardware that we have at Carbon Neutral Approach that we developed ourselves. This is our Warthog Control systems that we've applied. That was initially developed for the anaerobic digestion industry with the aim of generating a methane-rich biogas by controlling the actual environment where the biological process occurs. I'll start at the top. What we've got is, this is the main Warthog controller, or a master that would then be able to communicate with a bunch of remote terminals in a network. The Warthog can stand on its own, as it has 8 analog inputs and 8 digital outputs, which means you can connect 4 to 20 milliamp loop powered instruments into it, and then you can have up to 10 amp switches on the other side. The digital outputs is an internal relay rated up to 10 amps with 3 contacts, a normally open, normally closed, and a common terminal, which allows you to switch on and off pumps in whatever configuration it is. Further capabilities that we have on the Warthog main controller is a touchscreen interface, a USB port that you can connect to a laptop or a desktop to be able to run dashboards on the computers or communicate with other SCADA systems, Ethernet connection that would allow you to connect with a local area network. We have GPRS connectivity with a port for a SIM card that would allow you to have onboard GPRS for internet connection, Wi-Fi, and as said before, the 8 inputs and 8 outputs, and radio communication. So the Warthog would act as a master controller. The control logics would be hosted on the Warthog, and then if you want to expand a network and have more inputs and outputs further away from your control room, then we have, well, firstly the Maxi, which, as you can see, all these little blue connectors, these are all inputs and outputs. This can be configured for either 24 digital outputs, 16 analog inputs, or alternatively 16 digital outputs and 24 analog inputs. And again, these are 10 amp rated relays with normally open, common, and normally closed connections, and communication would be via radio, which makes it quite cost effective, especially if you're in the agricultural industry. If you have to lay cables over long distances, obviously your cable has to be below plow depth, which makes it quite expensive. So radio communication is quite handy in that regard. Then we have the Piglet, which is the smaller remote terminal unit with just 8 analog inputs and 8 digital outputs. Again, the 10 amp relays, 4 to 20 milliamp loop powered inputs, and radio communication. We have the Mini. This is a smaller unit in case you don't require to switch so many pieces of hardware. We have 1 digital and 1 analog output, and 1 digital and analog input on this unit. How we've also configured these, although it is a remote terminal unit that normally acts as a slave, you can't have all the units just transmitting all the time, so they have to sit on a standby mode until prompted by the main controller to see in what status they are. Because we develop these things ourselves, we can configure them in any which way. So we've been able to configure 2 minis as a data bridge, where one acts as a slave and one acts as a master, basically just to transfer analog data from a long distance away, where the one has that analog data as an input, transfers the data to the master mini via radio, and then that becomes an analog output that then is allowed to run a VSD or something like that. Then also, as far as the range is concerned, we have found with these little Omni antennas that we can get up to a 15 kilometer range, line of sight obviously. But if you have a radio that is out of range, or a remote terminal unit, which is quite a long distance, 15 k's, we have repeaters, and all our units are programmed to act as a repeater or with a repeater function. So if a unit is out of range, you can hop along units that is closer in range to the unit you need to communicate with, and in that way. So what we can do is we put one of our radios in one of these, put it on a pole at a long distance away, and you'll be able to communicate further than 15 kilometers. If you want to have some more technical information, I'll get closer to the touch screen on the main controller just now, but if you want to have some more technical information on the units themselves, you can just visit our website. It is www.carbonneutralapproach.com. Carbon neutral approach is one word. Just have a look at our hardware there, and I'll just get closer to I'll just pause the video and get closer to the touchscreen for a second to show you how that operates. Now, as said, I've got the camera a little bit closer now. As said, the main Warthog has got a touchscreen, and how we've configured it in this particular application is for a project with 10 remote terminal units, as the ones as I've shown down the bottom here. So what we've done in this case is each remote unit we've given a special or separate tag. So from the pre-treatment inputs, there's a tag and a page just for the inputs, and then the outputs, there's a specific page just for the outputs. Digester inputs again, and this we purely just did for the commissioning, but it's just quite handy to see how we can configure the network. Then also on a big industrial plant, obviously you want to have an option of auto or manual. So as you can see at the top, there's an auto at the moment, and then just flick it over to manual. And as you can see, the touchscreen is quite quick because it's actually a video screen. And we do this with the purpose of making sure that if you're trying to switch off a pump when there's an emergency, that it switches off quite quickly. Ethernet connection, this is the Ethernet port here. USB connector is over here. So when we get the controllers, I'll just move the camera back and show you the enclosures. When we get the enclosures, when they arrive, they look something like this, and they come standard as with an IP67 rating. So obviously when you start cutting holes in it with a CNC machine, it loses that rating. So what we try and do is we make sure that we don't lose that integrity, and we use these circular connectors from WAPO. They are IP68 rated. The terminals are inside are gold plated to prevent corrosion, and this particular one is for the digital outputs, with the 3 contacts of being normally open, common, and normally closed. As you can see, they're color coded to make sure that you don't mess up the connections. The antennas that we use are these little Omni antennas, and with them we've had a very good service up to 15 kilometers away. And yeah, have a look at our website. There we've got some videos of actual real-time application where we've installed them. You can see on the website also units that get covered in, well, the digestate, or the nasty mess that goes on inside an anaerobic digester. The unit gets covered on a day-to-day basis, and it's been operating for more than 2 years without any faults. So it's a good reference to have. Thank you very much. Keep an eye on this, because there's more development and more hardware to be seen in the future. Thank you.